Well, we're joined now by Iran's ambassador to Cairo, Mojtaba Ferdowsi-Pour. Ambassador, thank you very much indeed for joining us. This war is now entering its seventh day. Israel and the United States say that they are stepping up their attacks. What are your contacts in Iran telling you about the current situation on the ground?
Yes, as you mentioned, the war has entered its seventh day. Of course, when the United States and Israel launched this aggression, their idea was that they had designed a rapid lightning war against Iran and that they would quickly achieve their objectives. But now, as you noted, 7 days have passed, and neither the United States nor Israel has achieved any of its goals. Their assessment was that Iran would surrender immediately once this aggression began. But Iran has now clearly demonstrated its ability to resist and confront them. As far as I know, when American officials talked about this war possibly lasting 3 to 4 weeks, Iranian officials responded that we are prepared to continue for even a year if necessary. I think we should look at the conditions on both sides. So far, Iran has not requested assistance from any party to enter the war on its behalf. What is evident is that the Americans have pressured others, even the Ukrainians, to provide them with drones. They have pressured South Korea to send its weapons stockpiles towards Israel and US bases because they are facing shortages. They have also pressured NATO and European countries, even using economic threats, to push them into the war. But we see that in Europe there is strong opposition to expanding the scope of the war and to its continuation. As for Iran, the situation inside the country is under control and being managed. However, the Americans and Israelis have shown their malicious nature. Their crimes have not been limited to military targets or defensive lines in Iran. Most of their attacks have targeted schools, sports stadiums, mosques, and hospitals. Approximately 11 hospitals have been targeted so far. This is not the kind of real ethical warfare that they claimed they were pursuing in search of a quick victory. I think time will ultimately clarify the positions of both sides in this war.
Now, 13 people, 7 of them civilians, have been killed in Gulf countries since this conflict began 7 days ago, amongst them an 11-year-old girl in Kuwait. Why are Gulf countries being hit when they say they have nothing to do with this and they have done nothing to provoke Iran?
I believe the issue is quite clear. The United States has military bases across these countries. Prior to the outbreak of this war, through our consultations and contacts with their leaders and foreign ministers, we asked them not to provide logistical support, bases, or their territory to American or Israeli forces. If American bases in those countries become the launching points for attacks and aggression against the Islamic Republic of Iran, then the issue of sovereignty for those countries changes entirely. You also know that incidents have occurred in the region, in countries such as Azerbaijan, parts of Turkey, and even in some Gulf states, where we saw provocations by Israel. Israeli drones were sent towards civilian gathering points in order to create the impression that Iran had attacked those countries' sovereignty and security. What is on the agenda of the Islamic Republic's military and defensive front is targeting bases controlled by the United States. We have never violated and will not violate the sovereignty or civilian conditions of these countries.
Now, Iran says it is targeting US bases in the Gulf, not Arab neighbors, and yet civilian sites like airports, hotels, apartment buildings have been hit. Isn't that difficult to reconcile with what your government is saying?
After Iran targeted US bases across the region and American forces suffered heavy casualties and some bases were destroyed, American forces moved into hotels to seek safety. We have highly precise intelligence about these movements. American forces are our enemy forces and are aggressors against us. Wherever they are located, they will be targeted. We ask the governments of the region not to shelter American forces or provide them refuge. Under international conventions and treaties, a country has the right to target enemy military forces wherever they are located. Enemy forces cannot hide somewhere and expect such shelter will grant them immunity. Therefore, our request is that American forces leave the region and stop their aggression.
Now, Ambassador, your foreign minister says that Tehran is ready for a US or Israeli ground invasion. Do you think that's a real possibility at this stage? And what will Iran do if Kurdish fighters from Iraq cross the border and enter the conflict?
Being prepared for something and it actually happening are two different matters. If the United States enters such a scenario, it would be committing a second major strategic mistake in its aggression against Iran. Is Iran prepared? Yes. Iran is prepared on all fronts. Iranian forces have already strongly struck bases belonging to Kurdish groups opposed to Iran and are closely monitoring movements at US bases across the Kurdish region. Iran has close relations with the Iraqi government. We also have security agreements both with the central government in Baghdad and with the Kurdistan regional government. Guarantees have been given to Iran that no such actions will be launched against Iran from Kurdish territory. However, the Americans have shown that they sometimes use criminals or mercenaries, as we saw during unrest in Iran, before launching broader military operations. They may use such groups for ground attacks. We are fully prepared. But I would also advise the Americans not to commit another strategic mistake. Instead of thinking about entering Iranian territory for ground operations and committing another strategic mistake, they should focus on securing Israel's border with southern Lebanon so they are not caught off guard in the coming days and hours. A ground incursion by resistance fighters there will happen soon, and it will become a major disaster for Israel's northern front.
Now, we've heard President Donald Trump saying that he must have a role in choosing Iran's next supreme leader. And I wanted to ask you, what is your response to that?
Mr. Trump is a major criminal in human history. The title he has given himself as a leader of peace is a lie. Presenting himself to the world as a promoter of peace is a great deception. He is an international criminal. His aggression against the Islamic Republic of Iran proves this. Even more importantly, the hands of the United States are stained with the blood of our children, including young girls in schools in Manab and elsewhere, and with attacks on hospitals, including maternity facilities, where newborn children were being cared for. Mr. Trump has absolutely no right to insult the proud Iranian nation or attempt to determine Iran's future. It is the Iranian people, with their long historical and civilizational legacy, who will determine their future leader through a legal process.
So, who do you believe the next supreme leader will be then?
First of all, we will not allow Mr. Trump to make such strategic mistakes. Comparing Iran to Venezuela is fundamentally flawed. Trump should study the history and civilization of Iran. What matters is that the process of selecting a leader in Iran follows the Constitution. Currently, an interim council has been formed and composed of the head of the judiciary, a member of the Guardian Council, and the president. This interim council has already held several meetings, around 5 or 6 so far. All powers relating to war and peace are currently in the hands of this council. It will present leadership candidates to the Assembly of Experts, which will ultimately choose the next supreme leader. Given the wartime conditions, I believe the Assembly of Experts will conduct this process remotely. I believe we will see the chosen leader announced in the coming days. The interim council is currently handling this responsibility following the assassination and martyrdom of the supreme leader.
Ambassador, can you see the so-called Venezuela model being applied to Iran, whereby an individual chosen from the leadership in Iran is chosen to work alongside the United States? Would that work?
That idea reflects a lack of understanding by Trump and the current leadership of the White House about Iran's history and civilization. As I said, Americans should study Iran's history more carefully in order to truly understand the country.
Now, let me ask you this. Are you seeing any countries coming to Iran's assistance? Because some people will be wondering, where are allies like Russia and China right now when you need them?
Various proposals have been made through high-level consultations between leaders and foreign ministers. However, so far Iran has not requested assistance from any specific country during these 7 days of war. What you see happening in Lebanon with Hezbollah, Iraqi resistance groups, and others is not the result of a request from Iran. Rather, they feel a moral and religious responsibility to stand with Iran. Regarding Hezbollah specifically, the situation in Lebanon is unique. Since the ceasefire last year, Israel has violated the agreement around 15 times, and over the past 15 months, roughly 500 Hezbollah members have been assassinated. What is happening now in Lebanon is not because Iran asked for it, but because those groups see it as a legitimate self-defense and retaliation for those killings. So I emphasize again, in these 7 days, Iran has not asked anyone for military assistance.
We've heard the UN rights chief, Volker Turk, talking today about the need for cool heads. And he's been saying that the warring sides need to pull back and give peace a chance. Is there a chance for peace at this stage, or do you think it's too soon? And as an extension of that point, if negotiations are held, who could Iran trust to be a credible mediator?
The reality is that the aggressive actions of the United States, together with Israel, have killed the peace process and destroyed international trust. Actions taken by the United States under President Trump against countries such as Venezuela and Iran, and its participation in the killing of people in Gaza, have undermined the international system. The biggest obstacle to peace right now is the lack of trust. Trust must be rebuilt. Peace could not be within reach, but rebuilding trust requires international institutions to act. They must condemn the aggressor and take steps to stop the war. We do not consider the United States to be a credible candidate to lead a peace process. We no longer have the trust in the United States that existed before. However, Iran has always advocated peace in the region. We have never abandoned diplomatic solutions or negotiations as a way to resolve regional crises.
Okay, well, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Iran's ambassador to Cairo, Mojtaba Ferdowsi-Pour, thank you very much indeed for your time, sir.
Thank you.